Hey guys, Tim Allard from Hydro Labs here. Welcome to the official Hydro dApp Store walkthrough. So we've been working really hard over the past few months on a new version of the dApp Store. Previously it existed as a prototype, and what we have been doing is giving it a really great design. We completely re-architected it from the ground up to make it completely scalable, decentralized, and open source, just like how it was before. Um, so what we're doing now is making sure that it's really easy to use, people understand how to start using it, that the blockchain and the crypto is sort of under the hood, and it's more just interacting like any other application that you've interacted with before. Um, it is in a beta, and right now it requires MetaMask to be used, just like the previous version. So I'd really like to get started in showing you what it looks like. All right, so here we are. This is what the new version looks like. It's a beta. We're calling it version 2. As you can see, there are some familiar things that you could recognize from what a dApp store or an app store today looks like, with filtering capabilities and a slider and things like that. So very quickly, I'd like to walk through the page and a couple other pages that I have access to unauthenticated, so I'm not logged in. And then I'll sign in, create an account, and show you how to interact with some dApps. So first off, we have a header at the top, which has the ability for you to create an account and get some help. It has our logo and a beta mark at the top. The second area is a slider that allows us to promote various dApps, or right now promotions for various mechanisms like contesting and some other products that we have. And if you click on the button, it'll take you to the landing page. There's also a little arrow here that you can cycle through. In the center column over here, these are where our dApps actually live. So what we're doing is pushing for dApp developers to create dApps now that we have this really nice architecture and developer tools set up for them to build. On the left-hand sidebar, we have a reinforcement call to action to create an account and to submit a dApp, and I'll go into that in a little bit. On the side, we have categories where we can filter through, and if there's nothing that exists, there is a call to action for people to potentially create their own and be the first in this category to get a Hydro bounty. But I can go through the different tabs and I can see if there's an actual dApp for that category, it will appear. Going down the page, we have a call to action to get involved. Are you a developer? Do you have a cool dApp idea? Just let us know. It fires up an email and we can get the discussion going. In the footer at the bottom, we're very proud to say we're built on Ethereum. We are maintained and hosted on GitHub. We have other services involved like Netlify, and we have our privacy and terms. So some of the pain points with the blockchain and crypto space right now is onboarding a user can be challenging. So we want to make sure that we are we're walking the user through the process of getting familiar with this new type of thing. It's sort of like how creating an email back in the day was definitely not as easy as it is today. Now you have a big button that says compose and a big text box that says write your message and then a big button that says send. We're trying to really do that with the products that we're creating here. So you can see that throughout the walkthrough that things are very clear in how to do what you're trying to accomplish. So without getting too far into the weeds, under the hood there's actually a lot of technology involved, but at the high level it's built with React.js, it uses Web3, it uses HTML and CSS and all your fancy front-end JavaScript type things. But there's a lot of logic that goes around to communicate and back and forth in a two-way manner with your wallet in MetaMask to interact with the blockchain. So first off, what I'm going to do is click a button to create an account. So as you can see, the first thing that happens is I'm brought to a page that has a really cool interactive on it for MetaMask. So basically to interact with the store, I need to have a wallet. And we're connected with MetaMask right now, and we're in the works to allow other wallet providers to get integrated in here. So MetaMask in their developer docs, they had a cool little library to get the same rotating graphic that they had. So we were like, we got to have this in here. So basically, to interact with the store, you need MetaMask. So I'll click Let's Get Started. And what it's going to do is open me up to a page where I can add the Chrome extension MetaMask to my browser. So I actually do have MetaMask, but for this example, I just turned off the extension so I could show you what would happen as a new user coming here for the first time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my extensions in my Chrome browser, and I'm actually just going to turn on MetaMask. So now I have MetaMask installed. I'm going to reload the page. Right away, it determines that I have MetaMask. The dApp store is smart enough to recognize, all right, he has MetaMask. Let's fire it up. So I'm going to sign in, and now it wants to connect to the store for the first time. So I'm going to allow that. I'm going to hit connect. Okay. So now I can go over and actually create an account. So rather than seeing the MetaMask logo, it understands and detects that I have MetaMask, and it's saying, hey, welcome. You can begin the onboarding process. So typically, if you were to interact with this before it was redesigned, it's essentially interacting almost basically through the smart contract. And this is a step-by-step process that you don't need to go to Etherscan. You don't need to do various other things outside of just being in this tool in the dApp store. So we're trying to not use a lot of blockchain terminology and crypto terminology, but one thing we do want you to be familiar with is Snowflake. So Snowflake is our identity protocol, and it's basically the backbone of this store, and it follows you through other apps and products that we build. So you can create an identity, and that same identity can follow you around. So if you already have one, you can click to go through that way, or you can get started by creating your own. So the first step to do is to create your Hydro ID. And what we're going to do is come up with a name that is unique. There's only one of these names in the whole network. So I'm going to type in Tim. And as I can see, it turned red, meaning that it just did a check right now behind the scenes to say if it was available. So I'm going to type in Tim Hydro. I have a couple accounts here, so that's not going to work either. So let's do Timothy Hydro. All right, great. Timothy Hydro is valid. I see that it's nice and green, so it looks like it's good to go. If I go back, Tim Hydro is not available. Let's do Timothy Hydro. We'll hit continue. Great, awesome. So next is it wants to ask permission. So now, before we actually get to do anything, we need to make sure that the system gives us permission to do so. So we're gonna hit accept, and what it's gonna do now is basically we need to sign something into the system. So we're going to hit sign. Great. Next step is to actually claim our Snowflake. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to make a stamp into the blockchain, into the ledger for the first time. So to do so, we want to hit claim, and as you can see here, it says check MetaMask. MetaMask is going to load, and it's going to actually do its first transaction. So if we're familiar with blockchain or anything like that, it does require a cost to do so. A very, very small cost using what they call gas. So to go further than this as a new user, you will need to have some test Ethereum inside your MetaMask account in your wallet. And I have another tutorial inside the dApp store on how to get test Ethereum to do this. So it's going to require just a tiny, tiny portion of that. So once I confirm that, it is essentially talking to the blockchain. The computers around the world are solving math to verify things take place. It gets put into the block, and once the transaction is complete, the dialogue goes away, and it happened very quickly, but MetaMask came out with a little bubble and said that the transaction has processed. So as you can see, I'm now authenticated. It says, welcome Timothy Hydro. It has my EIN, and it has my Identicon, my Snowflake Identicon up here. So through another community development project, we had someone create an Identicon based off of your unique Snowflake. So every single Snowflake in the system will have a unique identity here. So I can click on it. So this is the same header bar at the top, but now since I'm authenticated, it shows my Ethereum address, it shows my external Ethereum balance, how many Hydro that I externally have, and how many Hydro I have allocated specifically to the dApp store for my Snowflake. So I can close this out, and what I'm going to do now is go to the Hydro dApp store, And what you can see here is we have a little bit of new UI. We have a button that says Get. So for this example, let's say we want to get Pet Friend. So this is just like going into any app store where you want to purchase or open up a dApp. Since I don't have the dApp, since I didn't have the dApp before, we're calling it Get, and it opens up a confirm purchase dialog. So you could be familiar with these things in the past. Anytime you purchase an app, it wants to state that you're purchasing something. It wants to tell you what you're purchasing, for how much, and the description about it. So we're going to purchase Pet Friend for less than 1 hydro. So immediately it says check MetaMask. If I go over to MetaMask over here, it wants to confirm that I want to make this purchase. So what it's doing right now is something very similar to when we created our account. It wants to make a stamp into the blockchain that basically says that this Snowflake ID on Ethereum is now making a connection to this dApp. And this connection means that it's now been purchased, and a transaction is made, hydro is moved, so on and so forth. So as soon as this transaction gets confirmed, and when MetaMask opened, I had the ability to do a slow, a medium, or fast transaction with my gas. So as soon as it's finished and it just completed, that dialog went away. MetaMask made that confirmation dialog, and the screen changed its UI once again to now, instead of getting, we can open or remove it. So let's open Pet Friend. So Pet Friend is a dApp where you can post your lost pet and you can offer a reward in hydro. So if I had a lost pet, I could fill out their contact information. I could put in my pet details, or I can look for pets that are currently lost. So right now we have Calzone, he's a penguin, and if anyone finds him, we have a 5,000 hydro reward. So keep your eyes out for Calzone. Alright, so this is a pretty awesome dApp. Or I could go into remove it if I'm done with it. The next thing we want to do is check out our wallet. So this is an important page, because this is where all your funding comes from, giving you access to all of these really interesting dApps. And to do that, we need to have some hydro to fund it. So there's a couple things on this page, but let's start right over here. First, let's say I need hydro first. So built into the smart contract of hydro, there's a function called get hydro that allows you to get 10,000 hydro by literally just signing a transaction. Rather than going into external ways to modify this smart contract or to make a function call, we're doing it right through the dApp store. So similarly, just like any other transaction that we make, I'm making a request for 10,000 test hydro. This is on the Rinkeby test network, to give me hydro for use in the dApp store. So my transaction has been confirmed. It also states it's been confirmed here. If I look into, let me reload the page here. If I look into my external balance, it says I have 10,000 hydro. So what I want to do now is move that 10,000 hydro into my dApp store wallet. So I could type in some numbers here, or I could hit max, and it will determine the max amount of hydro that I have available to import into my wallet. So I'm going to hit confirm. Hit confirm here. So what it's doing now, it's moving my hydro from my Ethereum wallet into my Snowflake balance, so I could actually interact with the dApp store now. And I actually had over 40,000 hydro before, but now I'm just going to add a little bit more for this demo. So again, it's doing the transaction, it's processing through. We have a confirmation, my dApp store balance hydro updated, my dApp store wallet hydro updated here, and we also have a USD equivalent right here, $29.89. So from here we could withdraw it back into our wallet, or we could continue to deposit. At the bottom we see all of our transactions. We can see a giant list, or we can see all the deposits from August and September 25th to withdrawals, and all the purchases that I made, whether it's through all the purchases of the dApps that I've made. Throughout the site, you'll see these little tooltips, and they'll give you some added context around what's going on. Your dApps. So this is an area where all of the dApps that you own and have access to reside. Managing your EIN, or your identity. This shows you your Snowflake Identicon. It shows you all of your Hydro ID information, your EIN, all your linked wallets, and so on. You can also link multiple Ethereum addresses and accounts, so you do that here. And next we have our submitted dApp page. So as a developer, this page is actually really exciting for me because anytime there's a new marketplace or a way that you can create something in the dev space, I really like to see dev tools, and this could be anything from APIs or assets or things like that. So thinking about that similarly, we're really excited to say that we are building relationships with other partners and players in the blockchain space and crypto space. So we have some third-party partners, and for this demo, I actually hid a bunch of them because we're releasing this video at the same time, and we have a schedule of how we're releasing things. So without releasing all our partner secrets right now, we're leaving the first one that we have there. So this is going to be a great resource where developers can come in and utilize APIs, smart contracts, tutorials, assets and design and components, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. As a developer, I really do not like to reinvent the wheel on things that are so low level in the application or code that you're building. I want to focus my energy on what makes my dApp or application different than everyone else's, or more exciting, or actually put the energy where I want to put it. Not to make something cross-browser compliant, although that's super important. I'd rather have some tools or a benchmark of something to actually get moving so I could get out the door faster. So we have some specific third-party partner relationships that we have up here. And here we have, in the resources and tutorial sections, we have information about how to use the dApp store, getting test Ethereum, what is ERC 1484. If you really want to get in the weeds of ERC 1484 and Snowflake, you can get into some developer discussions here, some best practices, and we're actually going to be building some bigger tutorials on how to actually develop your dApp for the system, because you can monetize them and you can make some hydro. Code snippets. So rather than bigger tutorials, we're going to have a way that you can literally click a module and find out the 2 lines it takes to make your dApp monetized dApp, or how to import certain assets. Going down the page, we have all the Hydro smart contracts that have been created by our third-party community developers. So we have a big program called the HCDP, which is very important to Hydro. It's essentially what allows the ecosystem and the highway of Hydro to continue to be expanding and built. So the HCDP, the Hydro Community Developer Program, has created a handful of smart contracts that any developer can integrate and start using into their dApp creations, whether it's charging interest, anything regarding randomized lottery dynamics for random numbers and winning and losing and timestamps and things like that. We have gift cards and product orders, marketplace coupons, credit card management, and so on. So this is going to be an expanding section as well. Along with that, we have our frequently asked questions, which are pretty standard and straightforward, where we have a couple questions that we predetermined and filled out. At the top up here, they're tile placeholders right now, but there's a lot of things that we're working on. We have a backlog of things, but I really want to make this a way that any developer can say, all right, I want to feature my dApp up top for X amount of Hydro, and it'll take it from their balance and put it into Hydro's repository. And it would be sort of like how, like a self-service checkout type thing, calendar, how much things cost based on availability and things like that. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that can happen there. And one final thing that I wanted to say is this project is very community driven and completely open source. Please let us know how we can make this better, what you want to see here. Do you have any developing experience with React.js, with Solidity, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, anything like that? Because you can actually contribute to this project. You can contribute code, knowledge, connections, relationships, and things like that. Do you have an API or a set of tools that we can integrate to just become a partner? We'd really like to get involved and figure out how we can make new relationships like that. Outside of that, I wanted to say that it is fully responsive. So there's a lot of things that we're doing to make sure that it works on every platform, every browser, and so on. There are some limited there are some limitations and bottlenecks that we do have, especially with mobile wallets at this point, because it's not just the dApp that you're working with. There's a couple extra components. So we're trying to make sure that we're on the cusp of everything to make sure that I know MetaMask recently came out with a beta of their mobile version, so we're looking for ways to make this as scalable and efficient as possible. Because in the blockchain space today, anytime you can remove one step a user has to do to start interacting with a dApp or blockchain or anything like that is a major win. So that's why we've been very strategic in thinking about how many steps we need to have a user do something. So we're doing a lot of hand-holding in the beginning to get them familiar with it, and then once they get in, you're pretty familiar with how things work. So hopefully this gave you some insight into what we're doing. We really look forward to integrating new features, and that's primarily from your feedback, and it allows us to allocate resources and source developers and really communicate what we're trying to do to make this flourish. So really appreciate it. Thank you for your time, and reach out on Telegram or Discord, and happy to chat at any time.